Okay. Thank you for watching. Obeying God's commandments makes sense. It gets good results, even if there is no God, no heaven or hell. There is, but there's still other good physical reasons, good results we get here and now. Let's look at the Ten Commandments to start this list. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, and thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images. This one teaches you about prioritizing things. So even if you're not going to worship the true God, it is possible to have your priorities out of order, and that would be counterproductive towards you earning money, saving money, having health, depending on what the thing is that your priority is. For example, if somebody would rather do drugs instead of get a good paying job that requires urine testing to make sure that they don't have workers on drugs, if somebody would rather do the drugs, they're making a false god out of that drug. They're doing something that's a bad priority. Sometimes there's something that's not bad in and of itself, but you have to, take a big look at the big picture. Like owning your own business. Some people own their own business, but it's not going well. It's not bad to own your own business. It's not bad to want to own your own business. But your priorities are not where they should be if your business is losing money and you're still hanging on to owning your own business instead of dropping the thing that's losing you money and getting on with your life and getting on to other things that will make you money. 4 is, thou shalt honor the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Thou shalt not work, neither shall thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor the stranger which is within thy gates. It's good for your health, your emotional health, your psychological health, if you have a day off from work in a week. Even if you're not going to really worship God and do everything you should do with the Sabbath day, having one day a week where you're not stressing about your work, where you're relaxing, is good for your overall health. 5 is, thou shalt honor thy father and thy mother. This commandment will get good results for you because your children will learn from you how to treat their parent when they see how you treat your parent. So if you want to be old and ignored by your kids, then be bad to your parents, and guess what your kids will learn to do to you when you're old, like your parents are. They will learn to treat you the way you treated your parents. So things will go better for you, happier life, if you honor your father and mother. Thou shalt not murder is the next one. This commandment makes sense to obey, good results, because you get punished by the government if you don't obey the commandment. And that's definitely not a good result. If you think it's good to be locked up in prison and not something people should avoid, wow, then we're not going to be able to agree on much about this list. Also, people who murder, if it was a murder in order to get something, a murder, robbery, you would have negative emotions in your heart. That would not be good for your emotional health and happiness. You should be content with what you have in life. There's a saying, happiness is wanting what you have, not having what you want. Because unless you're one of those rare billionaires in the world, there's always going to be something bigger you could buy. There's always going to be somebody with a bigger or better mansion or yacht or something. But if you have your needs met, you can just think to yourself, I have my needs met, and be happy about it. And, alright, thou shalt not commit adultery. Let's just talk about the whole law of chastity. But you don't have to chase your kids away from the TV or pause this, because I will be vague enough about what sex is that you could watch this with your kids too, even small children. But Father in Heaven's commandment is only husbands and wives have sex. There are a lot of different diseases you could get if you break that commandment. If you break that commandment, you'll have a less happy home life when the spouse finds out about it. Spouse might want to divorce you if you break that commandment. And I've never personally gone through a divorce, but I've heard from people who have that it's not cheap. And alright, and one good thing that sex does is it creates a special thing for the husband and wife to do that only they do, and helps to create emotional bonds with them. It'll work better to do that goal if you are a virgin when you get married. If you're not, you can be forgiven, so don't be too mad at yourself, but the ideal situation is 2 virgins get married. 8 is thou shalt not steal. This one again falls under the category of you're going to get some kind of punishment from the government. For the murdering, you could get the death penalty in a sane place, depending on what the laws are, how they punish things. If you steal, you're going to get some kind of punishment if you get caught in a sane place. Most places now in the world now, that means prison time. If there's a country doing things the way they were done in the Old Testament, that means you pay back more than you stole. In some countries, they'll chop off your hand for being a thief. So, you're better off obeying that commandment and not having those negative things happen to you. 9 is sign. Alright. 9 is thou shalt not bear false witness. This commandment makes sense to obey. You get good results out of it for several reasons. The most important is life is just simpler if you're only remembering one story. Now, I'm not denouncing memorizing the Star Wars books or fictional books, but when you're talking to people, if you're honest about what's happening, then you only need to remember what the truth is and not the lie. And who did you tell which lie to? If you're late to work because you just slept through your alarm clock, being honest about that will get respect from your boss, and you won't have to remember, now which boss did I say was it because of the traffic? Which boss did I say because of a flat tire? Just stick to the truth. You've got less stories to remember. And if you want to get good jobs that pay more, you're going to need to be honest, because people are probably not going to put you in a position of responsibility if they know you're a liar. And those positions of responsibility usually mean getting paid middle class, a healthy middle class paycheck. You shouldn't be honest and expect because you're honest that you're going to get $10 million a year like some athlete. But you're never going to be a manager of some business if they know you're a liar. And thou shalt not covet is 10. You should be content with what you have and have a positive outlook on life. It's good for your emotional health to be optimistic. And of course, coveting can lead to other things. Adultery, rape, theft, murder. All those things can have coveting happen before them. Now, I'm not saying you should not want better things out of life, but don't want the specific individual thing somebody else owns, be happy for them that they have it. Alright, the word of wisdom. God commands us not to drink alcohol. There is no such thing as drinking alcohol in God's mind. Alcohol will destroy your liver. And when you're in the middle of being drunk, you might pass out. You might not be in control of yourself and be a bad driver. You might do stupid things. All those will get you negative results. That's poor health. If you run somebody over while you're drunk driving, you'll get punished by the government. Smoking and chewing tobacco. Those are not good for your health. They increase the likelihood of various kinds of cancers. And heart disease. Smoking fills your lungs up with things that are not good for it, and you will more likely have lung problems, if not lung cancer, COPD, or other lung problems. Yep. So use tobacco appropriately. The revelation God gave about tobacco doesn't say never ever touch it. It lists 2 specific instances where tobacco could be useful. One is herb for sick cattle. So if you've got a sick cattle, maybe tobacco will solve the problem it has. The other thing it lists is bruises. So put on the outside of a bruise might be useful for your health. When I was young, one of my youth leaders had previously been a football player at Brigham Young University. And he was recounting to us how this one game went when he was telling us about his life. And I'm sure he said he got a bad bruise and they put tobacco on the outside of the bruise. Alright, so that's that. The Lord says not to drink coffee and tea. You won't have catastrophic negative health consequences from those things, but some people do get addicted to caffeine and then they can't wake up without a cup of coffee. And then after a while, their body gets used to that amount of caffeine and they need more caffeine to get the same result. So that's one reason why those things are harmful for you, and you're better off without them. And some people who like coffee, they get a liking for expensive coffees. And it has to be this one latte coffee from this one store. And that's not good for your financial health. If you're not a billionaire and you don't have money to burn, then coffee would be better off. You'd be better off without the coffee. Alright, God commands us not to use recreational drugs. Alcohol fits under this category. I don't understand what's fun about not knowing what's happening. And getting drunk to the point where you passed out and you don't remember what happened. How's that fun? I don't get it. But illegal drugs. There's a variety of possible things that fall under this category, or misuse of prescription drugs. But we can say in general, you will have better health if you are not hurting yourself with those drugs. Different drugs have more or less effects on the mind, killing your brain, making you stupid, reflexes, destroying the inside of your nose, literally making your skin and teeth fall out and fall off. So you're better off without those stupid things. God commands us to forgive all men. You'll have a more optimistic life. You'll have less stress if you do this. Now, that does not mean you never report to the police. That does not mean you never go to court to testify about what things have happened if somebody has wronged you or committed a crime. But it does mean you don't hold that bitterness in your heart. And you'll have less stress with that. Less stress is a more peaceful life, And stress in and of itself has negative consequences for your health, especially if it continues and it's long-term stress. Yep, and some of the other things we've already talked about: murder, robbery, arson, damage to other people's property. Sometimes people might do that as a vigilante reaction to somebody who really did something wrong. But vigilante actions are not legal in most places in the world, and you're supposed to call the police. And failing to forgive, followed up with a murder, an assault, or some other crime, will get you punishment from the government, and that's not a good thing. God condemns child abuse. Your home life will be happier if you get home from work and people are happy to see you. And that's a good thing for you if you get that result. You don't abuse your family, and they're happy to see you come home from work. If you're caught in committing child abuse, doing that thing, you might be punished depending on what the country is and what the rules are. It's definitely a good thing when it's illegal to abuse children. God commands us to love your wife. And you'll have a happier home life if you do that. Most women are going to react well to being loved by a husband. Jesus said, "If any man compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain." At that time, Roman soldiers could order anybody to carry their things for 1 mile. So Jesus was telling them, if one of these Roman soldiers says you have to go 1 mile, go 2 with him. There's an underlying principle behind that commandment of, if you have to do something, still try to do it good. That's going to help you to have money, because your bosses will appreciate you working hard, even if your job's not fun. And most people are going to need to get a job that's not fun. That's just a fact of life. We can't have a society that was 100% musicians, athletes, people that get paid to go hunting and fishing and shooting and whatever else you think is fun. Society with all that going on, and no doctors, no people building things that are needed, including the things needed for the fun stuff, just won't function. Let's see, so be optimistic, do a good job, even if something's not fun. That optimistic attitude, if you're really obeying that commandment, that will help you to have an optimistic attitude. And that attitude will help you to have less stress and a better life. When I was talking about the law of chastity, I should have denounced pornography. Don't watch pornography. Don't do it. One reason is it skews what you will expect out of sex or relationships or people. And it can become addictive. So anything that's addictive is a good thing to avoid. Gambling. God has denounced gambling. It makes no sense. It's a big waste of money. If you're one of those rare people that can hold yourself to a budget, good for you. But there's a whole lot of people that don't. And you're not going to get savings in the bank, and you're not going to get caught up financially if you're blowing all of your money with stupid gambling. And you'll have less stress, you'll have more money if you don't waste your money gambling. Alright. And so, thank you for watching this video. You have a good day. And remember, if you obey God's commandments, you'll get good results out of that here and now in this life. Not just better result when God's sending people to heaven and hell, and not just being close to God. Have a good day.